Hello, everybody. We are back. Had to reboot. Technology is, I'm good, but I'm not that good. So I apologize to my guest who is here on screen with me. This is Mr. Larry Sharpe. He is a friend of mine for the last, 6 years now?
Give or take.
And by the way, that doesn't mean I'm going to be nice to you, Larry. Everybody knows I'm a harsh interviewer when it comes to politics and elections. And that counts even for my friends. Fair enough?
But you won't be mean. You'll just be honest. I know you.
Yes. Never mean. Just always, we make sure we get it right.
Yep.
So what I wanted to start this whole conversation off with is introducing that you are Mr. Larry Sharpe. You are in charge of the Sharpe Way, a program that's on YouTube weekdays, every day of the week.
Usually, I've not as much recently because I'm a bit busy, as we'll be talking about soon.
Exactly. You have a very good reason for not being. And you've also been a very prominent individual in the Libertarian Party. You've been nominated, and some people were hoping that you would be a vice presidential candidate in 2020. You've run for governor and actually did pretty well as a third party, one of the better third parties in the history of New York State.
Absolutely.
Most recently, people have probably gotten to hear your name a lot because Zogby, one of the accredited and recognized polling firms in the United States, just did a poll on the New York State governor's race for 2022.
Yep.
Kathy Hochul, the appointed governor, it was Lee Zeldin, and of course, none other than yourself at 6%, which, if I am correct, and to my knowledge, no third party has ever polled that high in an official recognized poll before.
That is correct. It is, and I haven't even officially announced. And the reality of it is, because of the way New York State destroyed third parties recently, the only third-party candidate who has any chance to do anything is actually me. That's not a good thing, right? I mean, I guess it's good for me in a way, but it's not a good thing for the state. I mean, we really have gone out of our way to devastate third parties. And because of that, only someone like me who has a grassroots foundation, who's run before, who can take off literally a year and run. Because when I ran in 2018, of the 5 candidates, I was the only one who was not getting a government check. Sure. And this time when I run, it'll be only me, probably Hochul and probably Zeldin, but who knows, but probably those two. And they'll both be getting government checks. I'll be the only one, again, not getting a government check, which shows that this system is about either wealthy people or establishment people. If you're not one of those two, you're going to struggle. I happen to be the odd unicorn who is neither wealthy nor establishment, but can take some time off and do this. And still has people who, knows him, and the press knows me, you know me, podcaster world knows me, the infamous Joe Rogan now knows me. So all of those people, they know me. So I have the opportunity to make some impact here. And sadly, it's because New York State has been so bad to non-establishment.
Well, I'm going to get into that. But yes, you've been on Joe Rogan's program. You were recently on WTQ, friends of ours in the Utica region of New York. You've been on,
Glenn Beck.
I mean, there's not many major formats that everyone knows that you haven't been on. And that's without running for an election, just making yourself known. In fact, you have been around New York State. This is what, the third time that you've fourth time that you've gone to all 62 counties in New York State.
That is correct. I've done an event in every single county in New York State 4 times already. I will do it again at least once this year, maybe twice.
So I don't know of anyone else who's really done that much homework.
Yep.
Especially when they weren't running for an election.
Yes.
And now you are, but you've done it without being an election.
Correct, because I actually care about New York State. See, there's the crazy part. The last people who ran in 2018, they're all gone. I'm the only one who's still here. None of them went around the state. None of them talked about anything. My website never went down. I had answers for New York State, and they're still there now. If you go to LarrySharpe.com The answers from 2018 are still there, and it's a big I told you so, because everything I showed in 2018 is still a problem now. No one fixed it. And here's the best part. They could have just grabbed my policies and taken them. They didn't. And the reason is they don't want to fix anything. The left, right, other guy, bad paradigm works well to keep them in power. They don't have to fix anything. They know the empire is burning. They just want to grift everything until the empire burns to the ground.
Now, I have to take in people who've watched this. I've been on your program 3 times, twice. Mm-hmm. I know you've been on mine 4 or 5.
And we've done events together.
We've done events together. And so people who've seen us at our events have seen us on each other's program know we disagree from time to time. Sure. I am a conservative Republican. You are a libertarian. No doubt on that. And so I will defend Lee Zeldin and my party in that while not always the best, they try. And we have, New York is a bluer than blue state, which we want to break. But part of that is also what we want to talk about today, the exodus and how to end the exodus.
Yep. Because
we have conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, and some Democrats that are racing out of this state. Last year was 307,000 people who left.
Officially. In reality, 500,000.
Oh, yeah. Easily. Yep. We lost in 2020. We just squeaked by because they counted illegal aliens as part of the population. And that's the only reason we didn't lose 2 members of Congress, possibly 3.
I'm glad you said that. Most people don't know that and don't say that. Thank you, brother, for saying that.
That's why Biden changed the rule the first day he was in and said, we're counting illegal aliens now. It's the only reason why New York State squeaked by.
100%.
We've lost about 2 million people in the last roughly 10 years.
Yep, accurate.
At least. So this is a problem. So let's look at...
Hold on, and we've raised our budget by $30 billion. In the past 4 years.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I'm getting to that.
There we go.
But let me take a step back. So that's some of the daunting problem. The exodus of people, the loss of business, an increase of regulations. People are upset. Yet we are in a bluer than blue state. You're in a third party. Tell the people, Larry Sharpe, who's been on my program, and yes, they can see those videos, but right now, tell them, who is Larry Sharpe? Don't leave out the Marine Corps. And why is Larry Sharpe running?
The most important reason of all is because I am the only coalition candidate. I'm not joking when I say that. I have data to prove it. I have polling to prove it. Zeldin, or insert Republican here, will get conservative votes. Nice, good for him. Whoever the Republicans put out as sacrificial lamb is going to lose by at least 20 points, maybe 30. That's how it works.
Okay.
The state is at least 2.5 to 1, if not 3 to 1, Democrat to Republican.
Yes.
Right, that's how that works. New York City, 6 to 1. Most cities are about 6 to 1. Not all. New York City's heavily. But others in Rochester, Buffalo, probably 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1. But New York City, 6 to 1. That's how bad it is. Florida turned red. You go back 4 or 5 years, it used to be a swing state. Not anymore. Why? We're exporting our Republicans to them. They're all going to Florida, and they're going into states like that. It used to be swing states that are now red states. The Floridan people didn't all of a sudden become Republican. We basically gave them half of ours. They're all running over there as fast as they can.
Yeah.
So that's one piece. So a Republican cannot be a coalition candidate. The Democrats, they alienate their own. So how can they be a coalition? The only reason why people vote Democrat is because they've demonized Republicans so much that everyone thinks Republicans are going to kill them all. So they vote for Democrat to protect them from evil Trump who's going to, I don't know, eat their babies or whatever he's going to do. Whatever. The stories of him, he might as well be a hobgoblin in the night with the, whatever the case may be.
I think some Democrats think he is, yeah.
That's correct. So they cannot create a coalition. I can. I get people who are Democrats, Republicans, obviously Libertarians, lots of independents to vote for me to get a hold of me. How do we know this? I can say that, but I have data. The data is number one. When I ran last time in 2018, there were only 7,000 registered Libertarians, yet I got about 100,000 votes.
95,000. Yes.
Yeah, about 100. 100 sounds nicer.
Yes.
So that's why I said about 100.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
It's
that
fair.
wasn't a lie.
Fair. Yeah.
About 100,000. It wasn't a lie. So I got about 100,000 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we looked at our data that we had, and our data showed that about 20 to 25% of the people who voted for me were Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge for Libertarian. It's massive. You look at the polling from Zogby. They did a poll where they had just Zeldin and Hochul,
Mm-hmm.
and then they added me in. When they add me in, I get 6 points. I pull 4 points from Zeldin, 1 from Hochul, 1 from Not Sure. So I am the only coalition candidate there is. If you want to make a coalition against the establishment, it must be me. And the reason why it's me is because I'm the only one who will say, be as conservative or as liberal as you want to be. Just don't force your views on others. I will end all of the mandated things. If you want to do the things, do the things. If you don't want to do the things, don't do the things. It's okay. You can be who you want to be. I will let Broome County be Broome County and let Brooklyn be Brooklyn. I will let Wyoming County be Wyoming County and let St. Lawrence County be St. Lawrence County. That's a good thing. Nobody else will do that. Everyone else will enforce their will upon others.
Now, it's a very interesting point of view, and I know that is both what you said in 2018, and you're saying it today, and you said it in between. So obviously, everyone should take notice that you haven't changed with the winds of time, which
Correct.
many politicians may. I've said before, that's a very interesting point of view to have such an individualistic viewpoint from a man who's a former Marine, like myself, from the Bronx.
Yep.
That is, and as some would love to say nowadays, as people of color, we are like aberrations. I mean,
I know. Yes.
I'm the Republican, you're the Libertarian. Oh my God, the world is ending because
Correct.
Black men are not following the line. So let me ask, in looking at New York State, being governor of New York State, how do you approach as we understand, a very heavily Democratic, very heavily progressive, which is different, a very heavily progressive environment, and say to them, you can be an individual and I'm going to govern and this is going to be good for us. How do you make that case?
I'll give you the perfect example. I'll give you one policy which is going to help both those localized conservatives and progressive both. And that is the idea of a government supporting but not requiring co-op banking and worker co-ops. So what does that mean? If you're on the far left, you want workers to own the means of production. That's all you ever talk about. You want that. But in the left's perfect world, their utopia, the banks get owned by the government makes all the decisions. Well, I'm a libertarian. That's never going to happen, right? But here's what I will do. What I will do is say, if you want to create a county credit union, county-based credit union, co-op banking, which is what that is, co-op banking, supported heavily by local entrepreneurs, which I want to support local entrepreneurs, the state will recognize that as any other state bank and support it 100%. Get behind it. I will talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll give them special consideration because you are a local county-based co-op bank. Number one, that's not enough. But that's number one. Number two, now I say, are you going to get a check from the government in any way? Are you going to get a disability check? Are you going to get a unemployment check? Are you getting a settlement from the government because you sued or something like that? I tell you what I do. If you can get at least 20 people together to agree to start a co-op, I'll give you all the money up front. Same amount of money I'm going to give you, but I'm not going to give you over time. I'm going to give it to you up front. And I'm going to support that co-op to match that number. So I'm going to support the co-op bank to match the number for you to start a local county within a county. Everyone must be in the same county to support localism and to support local small businesses. You can start a worker co-op and we'll support you like anything else. Now, what does that do? Hold on, let me finish my plan. I know you're going to beat me up, but let me just.
I got a question.
What that does is it's voluntary. You don't have to do it. If you think worker co-ops suck, just run your life like you would always run your life. No difference. You don't want to join a credit union? Don't. But if you want to, you can. But if you're about localization, and many conservatives are about localization, in New York State at least, Not in places like Oklahoma, but in New York they are because they want to be left alone. This allows you to be left alone. The government's not messing with you. You can do your own thing in your own county, and Democrats like it. Progressives, like it because progressives say, "Ooh, this allows me to have that worker co-op, and I can create my socialist utopia that I've been talking about forever." Great, go ahead and do it. I love it. Go ahead.
Let's ask a question about that specifically, because it is
Please.
a new idea. No one's really touched it.
Correct.
So,
Not even Democrats.
no one's going in that direction. Let me ask a question that comes to my mind instantly is money. So you're saying, okay, we have thousands of people who are receiving funds for various reasons from New York State.
Yep.
But we're paying them out in part because if we did a lump sum, then we're talking about a massive amount of money. By the way, for the people who are making comments, I do see your comments. There are questions there. Actually, we're getting to several of them. So be patient with us.
I'm here. I'll answer them.
But so the question is, can New York State afford these kind of lump sum settlements? I mean, I'm just thinking of a couple of lawsuits recently, sexual assault or police. These are the ones on the headlines. We're talking about, I can easily off the top of my head think of $10 million worth of funds.
Absolutely.
There's got to be more.
Yep.
Do we have that money?
So let me cover a couple pieces of that. There's several parts of that. Number one, first off, we're already spending a whole lot more for shit that doesn't work.
Yeah.
We're already throwing tons of money into things that don't work already.
Absolutely.
So if we just stop that, yes. So just if we stop that, if we stop throwing money into an office of cannabis management, which is useless, or another ethics commission, which is useless, right? All these commissions, just get rid of those, which will all be literally millions upon millions of dollars. Just end that, and yes, number one. But next off, not everybody's going to do this. Most people aren't. How any new program works that's voluntary, which is why people don't do it voluntarily. If you force people, they do it because it's forced. If it's voluntary, it follows the market rules, which means there will be a couple of early adopters. That's how it always works.
True.
Most people will do nothing. A couple will go, wait a minute, I've always wanted a co-op. I can do that. And a couple will do it. Then others will watch. So what am I doing? I am slowly incentivizing local businesses. That's how it actually works. People aren't going to rush to do it. Plus, you got to find 20 people. What person can just randomly find 20 people? You got to find enough people who will all have buy-in. And because it's a co-op, they all have to spend some money. You have to buy into the co-op. So I got to find 20 people who'll be able to buy in. Most of them will buy in because they're getting government money, which is fine. So the government is now voluntarily putting money into local businesses that it's going to spend anyway. It's not a program that a government has to oversee with bureaucracy and blah, 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 which we always do. Or we don't bribe some big business to come in and we give them tax cuts for the next 5 years. Then they crush the small businesses and leave. We've been doing that for decades too. This allows a local person, if they want to open up a local area and support a local credit union, which if there are financial problems in the United States, which many people think there are, the salvation will be local credit unions. So we are prepping ourselves, even in the case of a financial crisis, we are prepping the state to survive it and weather it better.
So to an extent, it sounds like you're redefining, or like the popular word now is reimagining, the economic zones that have been the wonderkin of changing New York State for the last 7 years.
They've just failed.
Yes,
They've never succeeded. They should all go away. We should end the Empire Development Corporation needs to go away immediately. End. Once we get rid of that, we have enough money to do what I just said.
Yes. Okay. So now I see where the money comes from. Okay.
Just dump that. We have enough money, right? Just send that.
So that's the way to incentivize business, as opposed to the Empire economic zones. Instead of going to SUNY schools, you're going to the communities, community-based, and using those funds for that.
Well, we learned during the COVID lockdowns that communities in most parts of this state were not ready to support themselves. True. And they should be able to. We have relied upon government for so many decades that once government goes away, we begin to collapse because we've lost the institutional knowledge in our communities to support ourselves. This is a way of bringing that back to the best of our ability. It can't happen overnight. This program will not work immediately. It will begin to work. And the best part is the people who will jump on it will be the most motivated. So if there is a chance to succeed, and I don't know if worker co-ops work. I feel like they don't, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the wave of the future. And if it is, they will show us how to do it, and we will all voluntarily become worker co-ops. That would be amazing. I hope they're right. But if they're wrong, they'll stop talking about it, and we'll go back to regular business, whatever. Either way, it's working, and it's getting people to think locally. I have to add one aspect to this, too.
What's that?
Which is a policy from before, which I still keep. If you are a local New York State business and you agree to not sell outside of New York State, you will be immune from all federal regulatory bodies.
What?
Which means if you, yes, why should you be dealing with the federal regulatory bodies? You're not selling outside New York State.
And no interstate commerce, so the interstate commerce clause doesn't kick in. That's
correct. Yes. So stop. So why should a local farmer have to worry about USDA if they don't want to? Now the consumer decides. You must be transparent. You want to sell raw milk? Sell raw milk. You don't like raw milk? Don't buy it. You don't trust that farmer? Don't buy it. It's raw milk. You want to make your own yogurt? Make your own yogurt, man. I'm okay with that. You want to buy that yogurt? Buy it. You don't? You don't. Why would I do that? Why am I punishing people who now have to compete against franchises which will dominate them in the market and they have no advantage? I'm going to give them a local advantage for two reasons. One, it will prep them if they ever want to go up against the big boys. They can prepare themselves for that if they choose to, or they can just stay local. Maybe you just want to run your local business and you're happy. Good, stay in New York. I don't want you taking your business to Florida, North Carolina, Arizona. I want you taking it here.
Okay, so all the supplies have to come from inside New York State. All the sales have to happen in New York State.
There we go.
I still think there might be a regulatory hurdle in there, considering the federal government and its love of taxes and regulation.
I am happy to fight that battle for those local small businesses.
No.
I'm happy to take that battle on. Happy to.
No problem. It's an interesting, I think there's more to
Wyoming
that.
already does it. Wyoming does it for farmers.
Are they?
Yes, Wyoming does it, but only for farmers.
Okay.
I'm saying farmers and everything else.
Okay, so you're basically importing their policy and just making a new application for New York State.
And I'm making it bigger. I'm broadening it.
I wasn't aware that there was that policy existing already.
Yes.
That sounds even more interesting then.
Mm-hmm.
Let me switch directions a little bit because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. You and I, we just go forever.
Absolutely.
Let's go to, well, I want to talk about the 800,000 non-citizens voting. You know what, let's go through that real quick, and then I want to talk a little bit about crime.
I am not a fan of this idea at all. I think it is a terrible idea for many reasons. Even if you were going to go to the level of, say, resident, which I don't even like that, but if I had to take resident, I'm not sure I want to die on that hill. But do I want to die on the illegal alien hill? Yes. On the undocumented worker hill? Yes, that's a hill I'll die on. I'm not sure I would die on the green card. I mean, I don't like it, but if other things were happening, I might put that lower on my priorities. But the idea that someone can come here, be here for literally 1 month, and then vote is a recipe for disaster, ethics violations. It's an attack on the people who live in the communities. It's bad, and I could be here for an hour labeling how bad that is. It's nothing but bad. There's no good to that. Again, if they went just residents, if there were other things I wasn't working on, I'd probably fight that too. But that isn't the end of the world. Undocumented workers, they get to work. They get to vote in their own country. So then why are they voting here? They get to vote in their own country.
Mm-hmm.
They're undocumented workers. They can still go there and vote. You might go, but Larry, their countries are beat up and terrible. That's why they come here. That's true. Maybe they should go fix their country.
Well, you and I have gone over this subject individually, separately.
I'm not against immigrants at all.
No, we're not talking about immigrants. This isn't about
100%.
This isn't about legal immigration, which is an entirely different thing than illegal immigration. This isn't even that. It's non-citizens voting in elections, which as a candidate on a statewide election with 800,000 individuals, potentially even more, which is about a third of the voting base of New York State, possibly injected in there, I have to wonder if that makes you concerned or fearful, because it's an aberration.
For me, my election?
Yeah,
no, not at all. No, my election's fine. For personally, just on a totally personal note,
yeah,
I don't care. On a personal,
does it
meaning
help
for
you?
me
Does
to
it
run.
hurt you?
For me personally, I don't think it's going to hurt me at all.
Okay.
Many of them will. I get along with many immigrant communities. I don't mind that at all. It's fine. I'm also brown, which helps, right? So I don't mind any of those things.
Yeah.
So on a personal note,
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt me. I don't care. I can probably get involved with them more, because the Republican will never go there. I will.
Okay.
So the Republican can never go there, right? I will. So on a personal note, I don't care. I'm talking what's right and wrong here.
Okay.
Right? It's like if you're gonna say, "Hey, Larry, I'm gonna rob somebody and give you $1,000." That doesn't hurt me. You give me $1,000. That's awesome. But I still don't want the money because you robbed somebody.
Right.
So personally, it doesn't hurt me if you give me $1,000. But don't rob people. It's wrong.
No.
So again, I'm not concerned for the election. I'll be fine. My worry is it's wrong.
Well, no, I want to make sure, because people sometimes, and rightly so, will say, well, politician X or candidate X is doing something because they get votes for it. I mean, look at what's going on. $30 million for crack pipes. Look at what's going on with gun control, or what they call gun control. There's a lot of issues we can point to where we see politicians, they're doing the masks and the reversal of all of the pandemic regulations and mandates in 48 hours based on no change in any of the discernible science out there. They're doing it because of votes. So that's why I want to make sure people
I've already
knew.
said this. I'm on record saying this. They're going to end all the mandates. All the mandates will end either spring or summer, one of the two. And then they will declare victory. Progressives will declare victory. And they will say, everything's awesome now because of us. They will simply rewrite history and say it's all because of us. And everybody who died is because of conservatives. And everybody who lived is because of us. And we saved you all. Vote for us because we saved you. That will be the story they will tell in about 3 months.
Probably sooner than that, I would think.
Yes.
But yeah, and that is going to be the story, because they're already trying to make it that story.
100%. Yeah, they've already laid the groundwork for that story. Yep.
Which totally disavows the 34,000 healthcare workers that were fired because of not complying with the Empress, with the appointed Governor Kathy Hochul, which has had a negative impact on the economy. So let me ask you, in reference to those workers, those 34,000 health workers, whether they're doctors, nurses, or
Is it
other,
that many? 34,000?
Yeah, it was 34,000 for New York State alone.
I had no idea it was that much.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, we slammed our healthcare system before the latest variant then caused further problems. We had already cut back in every hospital in the state because of this.
Right.
As governor, would you try, or is there anything you could do to try? Because already New York State started off before in 2018, we were already short healthcare workers. The entire nation was short 1.8 million healthcare workers. That's a fact. We went into the pandemic, we've overworked them, and now we've got rid of 34,000 because of Kathy Hochul. What would you do to try and get those healthcare workers back to New York? Or is there a way to do that?
It is very difficult to do that, right? Some of them are going to be so burned, they're never going to come back. I mean, that's just reality. They're going to be so burned, so angry. Doesn't matter. I could say, here's a car. And they would be like, no, I hate you.
They
some of them
already.
are not going to come back, right?
A lot of them moved already. Yes.
There we go. Yes. So some are not going to come back. So I get that. So I want to bring those back that I can. And I want to bring others from other states in, right? I want to do both. I want to bring those back that I can. Some of them I've lost. They're not going to come back. And also encourage others to come. Now, I talked about this in 2018 already. Like, I was already on this. And I put out a video, and we're going to have it come out soon, coming up in the next couple of weeks, a video of my I told you so's from the COVID lockdown.
Okay.
I did 6 videos in March of 2020, so 2 years ago, on how I would have dealt with COVID. And at that point, I didn't know everything. It was March 2020. I knew what I knew. So it was not perfect. But I left it up so that people could see if they want to, knowing that it wasn't perfect, but showing that how I think and what my mindset was. And one of the things I brought up was 2 important pieces. Number 1, end certificates of need. Certificates of need, for those you don't know, you cannot open up a hospital, another hospital bed, anything unless the government approves it. The government decides how many hospital beds there are, and then complain we don't have enough hospital beds.
Yeah.
Literally. We had about 50,000 hospital beds when this started, and you know how many we have now? 50,000.
Oh,
we haven't changed.
I thought it was reduced. Okay.
But no, it's reduced because of what you said. It's reduced because we don't have the personnel to staff them.
Right.
So available hospital beds have gone down.
Yes.
Physical amount is the same.
Oh, yes. Right.
Because we can't staff them, so they're no longer available. That
Right.
makes any sense.
Yes, it
The
does.
physical amount's the same, but we have less available because we don't have staff for them.
Right.
So it hasn't changed. So end certificates of need, allow hospitals to open up when and how they feel, to open up and to get more beds when and how they feel. When you're going to use the National Guard, you don't use the National Guard to staff up. That's a terrible idea. It didn't work now, won't work. Why? National Guardsmen are trained in trauma. They're not trained in hospitals. You and I were trained in trauma.
Yeah.
Right? We were trained in trauma.
I can stop a bullet. You get shot, I can stop you from bleeding.
That's correct.
You need some kind of surgery for whatever.
I can't help you.
You're out of luck.
Absolutely, yes. I tell people, you get hit by something, you get shot by something. All right, I'll hold you until the EMT comes. But that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. And that's the National Guard, which is wonderful, but they're not trained for this. The National Guard should be building out hospital beds, as we started in COVID and we ignored, and Cuomo ignored them. That's what the National Guard does well. Build out hospital beds and field hospitals so the staff can now move out into other areas. That makes sense. But not just that. Allow for people who are nurses and or any type of licensed practitioner to move up and down easier in the hierarchy. That makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right? Marines know this from the days of corpsmen.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, where the corpsman all of a sudden became a surgeon because the doctor was dead. Right?
Absolutely need. Someone's got to do it right now.
Someone's got to do it. The corpsman's the best guy there. I guess he's sewing you up. Right? That's how it's working, right?
Pretty much.
We know this. So we do that. But more importantly, in New York State, if you are not licensed in New York State, you may not work in New York State. Wow, is that stupid? Oh my God, is that dumb? And that rule still hasn't been changed throughout all of this.
Really? Well, no,
Yes,
actually, yeah, you're right.
The governor has to make a special exception with the executive powers. No, end the rule. It shouldn't exist. Are you telling me that people trained and licensed in Connecticut are terrible doctors, terrible nurses? Stop. Because you learned your trade in Pennsylvania, now you're not good enough? Stop. So instead, encourage those to come here. You do that, it will change.
Yeah, most people look at that from overseas, which is United States versus other countries. Most people don't realize there's internal states.
Yes.
Where
Thank
it's
you.
intrastate, like as you mentioned, Pennsylvania to New York is entirely a different question about.
Correct.
Than
and
coming
the problem
from
is,
Cuba.
you know what's happening already.
Yeah.
They did it in the 60s, and they're going to do it again now, which is now we have a shortage because our system is so broken. Now we're going to import nurses. We imported millions of nurses in the 60s and 70s from the Philippines, India. That massive immigration of Asians, a huge chunk of them were nurses and doctors and medical practitioners, because we screwed up in our own system. I guarantee you the federal government will step in and do it again. Next year, this year, massive influx of foreign nurses, doctors, medical personnel. Not that I'm against them coming. It's fine. But why are we pushing off our own people? Let our own people do it. And if then we don't have enough, then bring them in. I'm fine with that. But we're going, our system's broken. Bring in foreign workers. What? How about fix our system?
Well, because if you have to bring in our own people, you have to reverse the autocratic decisions that forced them out in the first place.
Correct.
Is one argument that can be made for that, which I would strongly make and have actually already made.
Correct. But not just that. We want to make it easier for people to open up smaller shops. What does that mean? I want to try to bring back the actual general practitioner, which almost doesn't exist in our state, right? They're almost always hospitals or big conglomerates buy up all the doctors' offices, right? You see that happen. They're all becoming conglomerates. Why? Because the regulation and because the insurance companies are so broken. It's so destroyed. So instead, I want to support the idea of small shops opening up and creating what's basically called the gym membership. There's a company now called Forward. That's the name of the company. And what Forward does is you pay a flat fee every month and you get to go into their doctors. That's your insurance, the flat fee every month. And their fee in case of Forward is only like $200, which is still a lot of money, but compared to other insurance, nothing. Relative to other insurance, that's nothing. And you just get to go. You're not paying a bunch of extra stuff. And the big difference is in our current system, the doctor makes money because you're sick. You need to be sick for them to make money. So every single time in the current insurance model that you go to your doctor, it always ends with either a prescription, a procedure, or a test, because they get the bill to make money. But when you're paying your $200 a month, they don't care if you get a prescription or a test or a procedure. They already got paid. That's why the wealthy go to doctors who don't take insurance. I see it in New York City all the time. It's a two-tiered system in New York City already. The wealthy go to doctors who don't take insurance. And the people who aren't wealthy get stuck with insurance company doctors. I want to encourage everyone to get that. So I want to encourage the monthly fees. Now, once we make that grow, you now have the New York State government incentivize these to take on people who are poorer. So as an example, you make a rule that says this: if you are a doctor's office and you're doing your monthly fees, if you take 10% of your population, whatever that is, at a certain minimum, and the government will decide what that means. Maybe, a sake of argument, it is families that qualify for school lunch. I made that up. We can make whatever rule we want, but that's an example of one, right? Right. If you take 10% of those, your entire company pays no state payroll tax. Now, if you're a smaller organization, it's not going to be that much for you. You're a larger one, you're doing well, that's a savings. You're now the people who are what we consider poor, however we define that, now get great health care.
It's an interesting program.
Now they get great health care.
That's an interesting program. And
now, if they're doing that, something else happens. What? If they're doing that, guess what they're not billing? Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
They're not billing Medicare or Medicaid. So they go there and we lower our Medicaid, Medicare costs, which are astronomical.
And that's helping to bankrupt the state. I understand.
Correct.
There's more to that I want to get to, but let me switch gears. Again, I want to hit a wide berth of things so people have a very good understanding of what they're voting for.
But be clear, I gave you actual policies.
No, no doubt.
If you ask any other candidate, if you ask any Republican, here's what I promise you they will say. We got to push back the Democrats. That's all they will say. They will have no policy. They will just yell how Democrats are bad. We got to back them and support them. And we got to stop the Democrats. That's all they'll say. They will have not one policy. You ask the Democrats, all they'll say is, we're going to get Biden to give us more money. He's going to write us big checks. We'll fund everything.
And I dispute that. There are certain issues. There are certain issues where that's true.
Republican policy on this. One.
To the extent that you're talking about? No.
Anyone. One Republican who has a policy to deal with what you just said. One. Any of them.
Well, the easiest
Thank you. You don't have any. You have none. Stop, Michael. You have none. You have none.
That's not.
There are 6 guys running in the Republican primary. You know personally at least 3 of them, if not all of them.
Yeah.
But I know you know at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that. You probably know all 6, but I'm sure you know at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
And you don't know one of their policies. Why? They don't have any.
On healthcare, I will say, yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
Not one of my focal points. I don't know that to be fair, I haven't focused on anyone's healthcare myself. Not to say that you're correct or wrong. that's not one of my focal points, and I don't know that.
Yeah, but you should. Everyone cares about healthcare. They should be yelling that at you.
It's not.
They should be screaming that at you. They should be yelling at you, Mike. They should be saying, Michael, listen, here's my policy.
I'm going to invite them onto the program, and they're going to
watch this show before.
And one or two of them who might actually decide to show up, and they can answer it, and they'll come up and say, Mike, you should have known this. Guess what? I can't know I know a lot in politics. I don't know everything.
If you don't know it, it's their fault, not yours. Yeah. That's my point. They should be yelling this at you.
Fair enough. I'm
literally yelling it at you.
You are. And you've made your point, and that's, you know what? I can be wrong, and I am happy to be corrected. I've always have been.
But this isn't your fault, is my point. It's theirs.
I get it. And you're right. I shouldn't have to search for it.
Yes.
Too many other issues I don't. So this should also be one where I wouldn't have to. Fair enough. But I do want to switch ideas because, again, there's a lot of stuff I want to try and cover. Mm-hmm. A little bit more in my wheelhouse and something that I know is a very big concern right now across the entire state of New York: crime.
Yes.
Crime, police, and also the crack pipe, which is the most recent surprise to some people and a revelation for some people. But I think it emphasizes aspects of both crime prevention, law enforcement, and wasting money. So we know that, just to wrap, I know you know about this, just for the people who may have missed this somehow, the Biden administration put out a grant through HHS, which will give out $30 million to help give needles and crack pipes. Yes, crack pipes. It's called a safe smoking kit, included in the kits regularly from every organization that does this are crack pipes. And so they initially said they're going to do this. Because of the pressure in the last 24 hours, including from this channel, highlighting how we believe that that's not a good idea, the Biden administration has now come out and said, no, of course we would never include a crack pipe in there, even though it's documented in every organization that does this, that they give out crack pipes. And now they're saying they're not. And now the left is saying that they should give out crack pipes. Looking at this issue as a microcosm of New York State's crime, which is up. We were up in 2020, we were up in 2021, and 2022 has started off even higher than that. We've just been escalating.
Yep.
Drug use has been escalating. Overdose death have been escalating.
Absolutely.
Depression, domestic abuse.
All of it.
It's all escalating and continuing to escalate.
Yep.
Looking at drug use, and this is the answer coming from the Biden-Harris administration and progressives. And it costs $30 million, and many people will say, that doesn't address it. Progressives will say, well, we have to do something. You're governor of New York State. You're presented with this idea, and you have anywhere else you can go. What do you do to try and address drug addiction, the crime that is a direct result of the drug addiction, and have to also balance the cost? What do you do?
So there are three different pieces. And let me touch first the biggest one, the crack pipes. Am I by default against giving out crack pipes? I'm not by default against giving out anything. I have so many problems with this. One, why is the federal government doing it and controlling it? Two, why are taxpayers paying for it? And three, why would we make it universal? Is there a chance that if I give out crack pipes to a certain population in a certain area of New York State that it might help them? Maybe, I don't know. But why isn't that local community figuring that on their own, getting volunteers? If it's a good idea, get volunteers to give money and do it. I wouldn't stop you from doing it, but I'm never going to say, you know what, crack pipes for all. That's insane. But if you told me, if you're like, Michael, Larry, you know, I know I got this plan. I can give out crack pipes to people. It's going to help them in my local community here, whatever, in my county. Will you stop me? No, good luck. I hope it works, man. Get volunteers. Go do it. Tell me what happens. So I'm not against it as a thing because I don't assume that I know better. Okay. I assume that local people have ideas and we should try. I'm not prepared to have you pay for it. I'm not prepared to have taxpayers pay for it. Yeah. I'm not prepared for me to control it. But if some local community gets together as a nonprofit and says, we think crack pipe's going to solve our problem, will you have law enforcement stop us? I will say no. Go ahead. Good luck. Tell me what happens. See how it works. Because I don't know what's going to work. So I'm going to be clear on the idea of crack pipes. It's, whatever the thing is, give them needles, give them whatever. I'm not against any of those things if it is done locally, your own money, and you tell me what happens. Give it a shot. See what happens. What's working now is nothing. So whatever you want to try on your own without forcing others, let me know what happens. Maybe the crack pipe is the best thing in the world. And if it is, if that's true,
right,
and
right. I get it.
Obviously, I don't think it's true. But let's say I'm wrong and it solves all our problems. Then guess what? We'll all copy voluntarily. I don't have to force it. If it actually works, people go, oh my God, it's the best in the world. I don't need government force for that. I don't need taxpayer money for that. Try the things. I want to encourage innovation, encourage new ideas, even that one. So just on the concept of that, I'm at the end of the world. My concept is how it's done and let people be people. That's my issue. When it comes to crime in general, I'm going to tell you why we have all the crime. There's only one reason and only one: the black market. That's it. That's why we have more crime.
I would argue that.
I know you would, but I have so much data on my side on this one, brother. So much. All the crime that we see now, most of it's gang violence. Not all, but most of it's gang violence.
Predominantly, yes.
Yep, most of it's gang violence. And it started to go up in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Those are the 3 times it went up. What happened then? Lockdowns. Mm-hmm. We literally said, hey, young men, why don't you not go to school and not work and hang around the hood all day? That's what we just told them to do. Why don't you have absolutely no purpose in your life at all? And even those who had some purpose, we're going to shut that down too. You can't go off and do the cool thing you want to do. You're going to have no purpose whatsoever. So we had them sit there ready to be grabbed by gangs, number one. Number two, we shut down businesses, which means now there's not even part-time jobs, nothing to do. Number three, we screwed up the supply chain. So now people can't get stuff. Well, people still want stuff. So what does that mean? The prices went up. So now there's a black market in everything, which means that the prices go up for lumber, anything. So was it worth it to rob a lumber truck 3 years ago? No. Now, maybe. That's expensive lumber. It might be worth it now. So maybe I'll do it. But not even that. I'll add one more. We made the perfect storm. We wrote people massive government checks as long as they weren't working. So people took checks for literally years to not work legally. Yes. Many of them wanted to work. So we created a black market in labor. And let me tell you what happens, Mike. When I say, hey, Mike, do me a favor. Do this work for me. I'll give you $400. You go, great. You did the work for me. I go, I'm not giving you $400. What are you going to do? You got nothing. You can't call the cops. Black market labor. You can't sue me. Black market labor. You're going to get your friend with a bat and come visit me and get your $400. That's what you're going to do. Right? Now, I'm not going to like that. So I'm going to get my friend with a gun. And then you're going to, and you know who's ready to go do that?
Yeah.
All the young men who are literally on the corner waiting for that. We set up every single situation to create this. Then it happened and we're shocked. What? I can't believe we made desperate people desperate and then they acted desperately. How? My God, I can't believe it. It's completely government fault. And how do I know this for sure? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you. Prohibition. Prohibition in the 20s, exactly the same thing happened.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the worst part. In New York City, and I bring this up, being a cop in New York City prior to 2020 was a very difficult job, but it wasn't a particularly deadly job.
Not usually.
Most cops rarely got shot in New York City prior to 2020. It happened, and it's a dangerous job, but it wasn't that deadly relative to other jobs. We have 40,000 cops in New York City.
Yeah.
And before 2020, maybe one got killed every 2 years. That's how rare it was.
Before 2015, I'd say. But yes, your point is correct. Your point is correct, yes.
Now we're shooting cops every week. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Being a cop in New York City is a deadly job now. Now, it used to be only hard. Now it's hard and deadly. So we've made it worse for the cops. Why? Because desperate people do desperate things. When is the most time, the time in American history where the most cops were killed? During Prohibition. Exactly the same thing. The most cops ever killed across America was during Prohibition. Because when the stakes become so high, when people have no other options, that's when they shoot cops. Otherwise, they don't. You go back 4 years, people would see cop, they throw the gun in the garbage and run.
But see,
now they shoot back.
So are we saying the answer to, are we looking at prohibition as the answer, as in Prohibition, we made alcohol legal again? Right. Are you looking at drugs in the same way? I'm
saying make work legal.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification because the example you're using may lead people to think of a different conclusion. I want to be very clear.
What we're prohibiting is work.
Okay. I just want to make sure
we're prohibiting school and we're prohibiting work. Okay. We're shutting schools down and we're shutting businesses down. We are prohibiting purpose. We are prohibiting people to go out and do stuff.
And that's actually what I think. And purpose is what I think is the leading cause of crime.
Correct.
Purpose. So that's why I say I was thinking different.
Also self-harm.
Falls into the same thing.
Drug addiction, all of those things.
You take away a person's purpose, then everything else fails in their life. And then
you don't mind shooting cops. You don't care at that point. You don't care. You'll fire back at police officers then. You don't care anymore. If you let people work, open up our economy, allow people to work, stop punishing the gig economy. Most people, when they make a change in their life, go to the gig economy. That's how we shift jobs. That's how we shift careers. We go into a gig economy for a short time till we find the right thing and then we get a regular job. Let us have gig economies. Let people be 1099s. Let small businesses thrive. Let people do things. Let workers be workers. One of the reasons why we have so many people not going back in the workforce is they're becoming contractors. But states like New York State and California are attacking contractors and punishing people who hired people. Stop all that stuff. Let kids go to school. Let kids go to work. Let people go to work. Let people go to school. Get them back in action. There'll be less people to recruit for these gangs.
Fair. So...
And once we ended Prohibition, violence went down and cops stopped getting shot anywhere near like they used to. Right. I mean, it's like a downward, like,
it was a massive change. It was a massive reduction.
Yes.
Give me a second. I just want to make sure. See, we've covered a couple of different things. We've been talking about the economy. We've been talking about trying to.
Well, let me now go to law enforcement.
Yeah, that's the part we have missed. Yeah.
Let me touch that last piece, law enforcement. If I came out with a policy right after George Floyd's death, which was how to reorganize police forces. Defunding the police is a terrible idea.
Thank you.
And I'm shocked how many people still are for it, but some people are still for it. And it blows my mind, but it's true. Some people are still for it. Okay, I got it. My idea is reorganize the police, again, on a voluntary basis. What Cuomo did was say, every police force must come up with a new plan and fix everything in public safety. No, some people are happy with their police force.
Most people
If you're happy with your police force, why would I force you to adjust your police force? You like your police force. People should be policed how they want to be policed, not how I decide they should be policed. If you're happy with your police force, good on you. If you're not, adjust it. And my plan was a 4-point plan. I call it the FAQS plan. FAQS. F is family law. I want a separate division within the police force that's family law. That in that case, it's one cop and one chaplain. I'm not joking. I'm an actual chaplain. I don't care what religion, but a chaplain. Local churches support. That's the community piece. One cop, one chaplain. There's an issue where there's domestic dispute. There's kids involved. They both go in. The chaplain's there. That's their job. What they want to do, they try to de-escalate. That's literally what they do for a living. They try to de-escalate. It doesn't work. Cop is there, right? If someone's got to go on the ground, the cop puts the guy on the ground if need be. And it's usually the guy, sadly. But if that's the case, if there's some domestic issues, He wants to beat his spouse or something, whatever. Cops got to put him on the ground. Fine. Cart him off, put him on the ground. But most of them can be saved. And here's my example. If you remember the 2 cops who were shot recently in New York City.
Yes.
Domestic issue.
Yeah.
Mom calls and says, my son is arguing with me. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm a little worried. They send 3 cops. 3 cops come in. She doesn't say he has a gun. She didn't even know. No idea. 2 cops come into the room. He comes out blazing, trying to escape. Now, that is a terrible idea. I am I will say, amateur when it comes to doing these things, but I would have never gone into that room. I would have asked the mom to call him out. A savvy person who's done this before would have never thought to confront, would have thought to bring him out. Anyone who's a chaplain or in that world, a therapist, would have never confronted him, would have asked him to come out. Now, does that mean, hold on, does that mean they wouldn't have been shot? I don't know. But if they would have asked him to come out and a guy who's a chaplain who does not have a gun and a uniform comes out, there might have been a conversation. Might he have still shot them? I don't know. But what I can tell you is it wouldn't have been worse. It would have been the same outcome or better. And if that was the norm, and we did this as the norm, less people would be shot. Now, am I forcing this? No, I want this as a template for those people who are upset to have that group. But I'm not done. The next group is your active policing, FA. Active policing is getting bad guys, right? But here's the problem. Look, brother, you're a Marine like me. We don't keep Marines on the line any more than 15 months maximum. Usually it's 9 months, 12 months. Max is 15 months, and we rotate Marines out of the front line. We don't keep them in theater. We get them out. Get them out of the country. We do it. Then we bring them back maybe 6 months later, or a year later, whatever. Why are we keeping our active police on the active duty for 20 years? It's insane. Every group should decide, how long should a cop be in the front line? Is it 3 years, 4 years? You pick. You tell me. And you have a rough neighborhood, maybe it's 2 years. I don't know. You decide. And you got to rotate them out. That part, if you implement this, you'd voluntarily implement it, must be mandatory if you implement it. Because cops will not voluntarily leave active policing. Just like Marines don't want to leave the line. They're hardcore. They don't want to leave, right? They won't want to leave. So everybody does it. You rotate out. You either go to family law for a year, or you go to the Q, which is quality, or S, which is social services. You go to one of those for a year, get yourself off the front line, and then get back in. Cops have divorce rates. They have PTSD. They spend all time on the front line.
Yeah.
How about let's not have them on the front line for 10 years? They rotate out for a year. And as they rotate out, some of them will be like, you know what? I like family law. Can I stay? Now we start populating family law. Some will be like, you know what? I did my year with my chaplain. I'm done hearing his yapping. I'm back in the front line. Go. Back in the front line you go. So you start doing that. They're also armed differently. The family law guy only needs a pistol. The active policing guy, he's going to need some more firepower. I got it. So he's also armed differently. Next one's quality of life. That's like tickets for stuff like that and sound stuff. Usually urban communities require more quality of life. Rural communities, not as much. Same idea. And was that? You use local groups for dispatch. I don't use my police force for dispatch. I use like my VFW. I use my American Legion. I use my Knights of Columbus. That's my community that I use for quality of life issues. You shouldn't call 911 because a guy's playing a guitar at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? You call your local VFW. They then get the guys out to get the guy to stop playing a guitar or give him a ticket or whatever the case may be, right? It's a different issue. I don't want a guy who just comes back from a car chase who's all hyped up. He's just a human being, a cop. Now he's got to deal with a guy with a guitar. He's going to hit that guy over the head with his guitar, as you would too. So I don't want to put a cop in that position. I want him getting out of active policing and being in quality or whatever for a bit. Last is social work. Social work is literally drug addiction, homelessness. Why do I want a cop who just got out of some other problem now have to deal with a homeless guy? No. That cop is special in social services for a year or whatever the time frame is, and he works directly with another social worker. And that social worker, all of them, they come directly from local colleges. I'm not joking. These social workers will be good social workers. Be in the field. You want to talk trash about how hard it is? Have a homeless guy spit at you. Then tell me how you like it. That will train our social workers better. It'll give them a time to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And they're also, here's the best part, they are also armed differently. It's a different way of keeping people together. And the most important piece, Michael, it's a framework for people to take voluntarily, which means certain communities that are in trouble will adopt it because it gives them a framework, and we'll see and go, does it work? And they'll shift and mix, and they'll change budgets from where they want to go. It's still one police force. They just shift in different units. It's still Marine Corps. Some guys are in supply, some guys in the front line.
I understand that concept, but one of the things that strikes me about that is to be able to implement this, and now I'm just thinking of the structure of it, because of the rotational nature of it, you need more people in the police. You have to increase the police force to make this. I mean, maybe once it's rolling down the hill, it's going to work, but at the very least, in the initial phase of that, you have to hire more police.
I would argue no. And here's why I would argue. Because each one of those 4 has a volunteer civilian component. Chaplains are volunteers. Social workers are volunteers. VFWs volunteers. Local police, local watch volunteers. So you're supplementing the police force with volunteers from the community. So you shouldn't have to. You are literally supplementing them with the community, which is what I want. I want the community part of its own policing. And not just that. Again, this is not a law. This is an option. Most people are not going to do it. This follows the market. I'm a libertarian, remember? Right. I'm going to follow the market. A couple of early adopters are going to grab this and do it. And we're going to learn from it and say, well, that works. Well, that doesn't work. And so now you're not building from scratch. You're copying what some county or some city did that worked.
So, and I know we may be running a little tight on time, and part of that's because of my own error, which I apologize again for at the beginning. I know we'll talk forever.
I'm giving you policies, brother.
I know.
How to fix things.
I'm not questioning that. And what I'm questioning is I'm looking at the policies and I'm trying to evaluate and understand them.
Yep.
And make sure that people who are listening who don't follow politics every day like you and I do are able to break them down and go, okay, it makes sense to me. So
Sure.
I just try to make sure of that.
100%.
It's interesting. I can see the value in it. I still think you need more police. You'll need training for some other people, but that's fine. I mean, but one of the things I'm noticing overall in our conversation today, and I think it's true in many of your conversations that I've heard over the years, there is a reasonably high degree of experimentation.
Correct.
You're opening it up to the public. You're saying, go out there, you do things. Do you therefore see the governor more as a manager or more as a director? Because people wonder about that.
100% manager. You are told, yes. Again, you got to understand, I'm still a libertarian in my heart, which means what I really want in my perfect world is better communities, right? Just because I don't want the government to do it doesn't mean I don't want it done. I want it done. People need help. I just want more local communities to be better at supporting themselves. Because when crisis comes, if communities can't support themselves, they collapse and tyranny happens. We just saw it. We're still living it, right?
Yeah.
The more we have communities that can support themselves better, and the problem is, again, we've spent so many years telling communities to stop supporting themselves. I got you. I'm big government. I got you. Shh, I'll write you a check. Be quiet. Here's your check. We've been doing this for years, decades. It will take time to rebuild all those things. It'll take time to change the mindset. Yes, I'm looking for a cultural change. Our system right now is, I'll get my guy or gal in charge, and they'll enforce their will upon you. See, I win. The average Democrat or Republican, the average left or right person, sees a victory as hurting the other. I've hurt the other, therefore I've won. I see victory as we all win. That's what I want. Recognizing that victory is defined differently by everybody around me. I don't assume that my definition of victory is the same as yours. So I have to allow people to have their own wins. I'm creating an environment to do that. There is no quick fix. I wish there was.
No.
Quick fixes are always violent and horrible. I don't want that.
They never work. They never work.
It's a cultural change.
We've seen too many home run, I like to call it home run politics.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Hemp will change New York or Binghamton or Broome County. We're going to bring in drones. yes, we'll create drones and they will change New York. And none of them. I have yet to see one of these home runs actually work. In my lifetime, it just doesn't. It sounds great.
And here's the worst part. The Democrats will say, we'll just start more programs. And that's all Hochul talks about, is more programs.
Yes.
None of them have done well.
True.
Zero. We're going to invest in this. None of these investments have done well. And I'm very clear. In the past 10 years, that I know of, 10 years, not one of these projects has paid off the way they said. Zero. They are 100% failure. None of them have paid off the way they wanted to. Some have been colossal failures, but none of them have been successes at all. And what's our answer? More of that. Ask the Republicans, what do they say? We're going to cut taxes and cut spending. How? By cut taxes and cutting spending. How? Because we're going to cut taxes and cut spending? Because Democrats are evil? They have no plan to cut stuff. They don't know what they're going to do. If they cut stuff, there's a difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are tax and spend. Republicans are debt and spend. Same thing. No different. One's debt. The other one's tax. Same thing.
I would take deference to that. And that, I can tell you, is not, there are specific plans in there. School vouchers as one that just comes right off the top of my head. Differences in policing and cost stuff.
School vouchers doesn't change the budget.
Sure it does.
No, it doesn't. Because not at all. Because you keep school vouchers, you haven't changed the system. And the system is still run by administrators. So it doesn't matter. We tried it in New York City. New York City has had different types of schooling, changes, shifts, and this. And what happens? The budget gets bigger.
Well,
if you don't change the system, it doesn't matter.
Well, the problem wasn't the vouchers or the new education schools. The problem was New York State government. Because, and that's my point. So when I'm saying the vouchers, we're agreeing on this. We're agreeing on this.
No, we're not. You're like, they have a plan to change stuff. No, they don't.
Yes, they do. Because the vouchers, which also includes, in the Republican point of view, and I'm not speaking about one candidate's specific policy, I'm talking about overall. And you know me, I'm not an establishment Republican, so I don't necessarily line up in any one particular view. But the goal is to reduce government, especially in education, because for the most part, we absolutely shouldn't have a federal involvement on education.
100%.
Statewide, you can make the argument, but bringing it more local is better. Give us state targets and step away. That's perhaps the best thing. And vouchers fall under that because as we remove those higher structures of ridiculous regulations that have no impact on individuals' lives properly, then you get more freedom of those schools and the children get better educations, which I know you and I both agree. The kids are getting substandard educations right now.
100%, yes.
Even without COVID, they're getting substandard. They can't read.
100%. You're right.
What is that, Grammarly? Yes. Why do we have, if you need Grammarly,
we shouldn't need Grammarly. You're right.
You failed sixth grade English if you need Grammarly.
But let me be very clear what you said. If we have vouchers, and then you gave 3 things that have to exist that don't exist. You said, if we get rid of this and no federal government and blah, none of that is going to go away, which is why vouchers fails. My plan actually does get rid of all those things. My K through 10 plan that I talked about in 2018 gets rid of all federal strings. So my plan does, and the federal government will walk away on purpose because once we stop doing testing, the federal government, it's in the rules. If we don't do testing, federal government money goes away. But with my plan, I make up the money with my 11th and 12th grade. So we lose no money and the federal government's out, which means we fire the administrators that do federal government such, which means now a voucher plan could work. My plan actually does work because the magical things you talked about, I actually get rid of. But I'm still not done.
Well, we're going very broad strokes. And I know there is, and I do want people to understand, there's the Sharpe way. There's your personal website as well as your YouTube.
LarrySharpe.com.
so people can go and investigate, because there is a lot to this. We've been talking about these things for years. We're talking in broad strokes. I know some of the finer details of what you're talking about. You know some of the finer details of what I'm speaking about.
Right.
So I don't want other people to hear some of the communication you and I are having that are maybe
kind of
skipping.
inside baseball.
Yeah. Because we're missing a couple of steps in between that they may say, well, what about that? It's like, no, folks, we understand there's more details here.
But let me clear on one important thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a big announcement sometime next week.
Okay.
And I'm going to have a change to my website and policies within a week also. So if everybody can wait about a week, recheck LarrySharpe.com. You will see an announcement and some new cool stuff.
Okay. That I will look forward to, and I will definitely investigate that. How much longer do I got you for, Larry?
About 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes. Okay. I know we're over, and again, I appreciate the fact that you've given me the extra time, technical issues and all. And obviously, we're going to follow up.
Yep. We always do.
Yeah. And you're eventually going to get me the cookies.
I will. Yes, I will. Yes, absolutely.
And again, inside baseball, folks. It's
yes.
From a previous podcast he had been talking about. So, because we're friends. We argue, we disagree sometimes, we go back and forth, and we're friends, which I think is important.
100%.
Because my experience with you and watching you with others is, it's not that we've never had disagreements or other people have never had disagreements with you. And I do give you credit that you do have a good ear of hearing what people are saying and going back and forth and having that conversation, which is the way it's supposed to be. I'm a little bit more of a stick in the mud about it sometimes, but I like to try and do that as well. But I do appreciate that about being able to speak with you, both publicly and privately. Looking at one final thing here, looking at where you are right now, you are 100% ahead, literally double where you were in 2018.
100%.
You have far more public attention. You have made very strong positions known, and people have debated them and investigated them. We know for a fact New York current government is a failure.
Yep.
That there is no one who's going to there is no argument to say otherwise.
Correct.
It has failed the public on every level that you can quantify. It is quantifiably worse today than go back X number of years, whatever number you want.
Yep.
Given that you have the exposure, or more of the exposure, given that you're getting more of the funding, given that people are paying more attention to your ideas.
Yep.
Do you expect to win? And
it's a great question. Great question.
And here's the other thing that goes with that.
Yeah, great question.
Whether you win or not, how do you think it can help New York State?
Yes. So let me cover a couple pieces. I want to run on multiple party lines. I want to, even if the Republicans get smart and they give me their line too. If I can run on multiple party lines, I have an actual chance of victory. If I can be the coalition builder that I say I am, if I'm able to create that, yes, I can win, assuming I can get multiple lines and be an obvious. Here's the reality. I cannot get establishment Democrats to vote for me. That's probably a bridge too far. But I can get Republicans to vote for me. I can get Libertarians to vote for me, independents to vote for me, retirees to vote for me. I can also get pissed off Democrats to vote for me. And we saw that in New Jersey and Virginia. That can be done. If I can create that coalition, yes, I can win. If I can't create that coalition, the odds of victory are much slimmer. Because if I can't create a coalition, I have to rely on the others making big mistakes. That makes any sense, right? I will not have control over victory. I've got to hope that Zeldin and Hochul make massive errors. And they might. I am going to run my campaign to win.
Right.
If I get the coalition, I will control. It's my destiny to win or not. I'll be good enough or I won't if I get the coalition. If I don't get the coalition, I'm going to run to win. If they make big mistakes, I win. The difference is, will I have control over it or not? Now, when I say win, I mean win the governorship. But I don't have to win the governorship. Obviously, I hope I do. Obviously, I will run to do so. Obviously, to be forward with you, you're going to have a job if you want one if I win. so you know, I will need people like you, right? Because I don't want establishment people, and establishment Republicans don't like you.
No.
Yes.
Not at all.
Yes. Regular Republicans on the ground love you.
Yeah.
Establishment Republicans don't like you. So I will need people like you. So if I win, that's awesome. But say I don't win. If I even imagine for a second, if I came in second, just come in second, it would change New York State completely.
Sets a precedent. Absolutely.
It does. And in New York State law, how it works is the top two parties run everything. And that's based upon the governor's race. So what would happen is Democrat and Libertarians would run everything. There aren't enough Libertarians, number one, to run everything. Can't do it. And two, Republicans would just rewrite the rules, which is fine. I don't mind. But the rules would be rewritten to include third parties. And that's what we need. If we cannot, the problem is we cannot build coalitions in the state. The state is so deep blue that we can't change it unless we can build a coalition of pissed off blue people. And they won't go just to Republicans. There has to be a third party that can bring them all together. And I hope there are multiple third parties, right? Andrew Yang's building the Forward Party. I hope that party does well too, right? I hope they all grow. That'd be amazing. So if I'm coming second, changes everything. Plus, if I come in second, people will hear everything I'm talking about. I won't only be talking to you. I'll be talking to CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. I'll be talking to everybody if I come in second. But let's say I don't come in second. I don't even come in second. I just break 10%. That's it. Just break 10%. People will pay attention. They'll go, 10% of Libertarian in New York State? What is going on? Again, more people hear what I have to say. It changes everything. But more importantly, even at 10%, I will have broken New York State from attacking third parties. And some people may not care about Libertarians. But you know what? Conservative parties can be a real third party. Right now, it can't. By the way, the system is it has to rely on Republicans. And there's a lot of conservatives who don't like the Republican Party. But they're stuck right now. Well, if I blow up the third parties to make everyone use it, conservatives can be a real conservative party. Greens too. I know you don't like Greens, but they have a right to exist, right? And,
True, they do.
They
do.
And they'll be able to be, again, we can do the things we need to do. So even 10%. So I win, in my view, at 10% or more. I'm going to run to actually win. If I get the coalition and if Republicans actually do the right thing and sit this one out and instead put me on their banner, I can win this thing outright. If I don't get that, I have to hope the other two make big errors. If they make big errors, I'll still win. But I have no control over that. I just run to win and see what happens. That's where I am.
You know what? That's a fair assessment. It's a fair outlook. And I think it has a lot of positive aspects to it. Of course, you are my personal friend, and my bias is absolute. And when I say I look forward to you doing extraordinarily well at the very least, if not winning, you're my friend. And I stand by my friends, and I'm not a progressive. I don't believe in, you're not in my party. I can't like you. I don't care. You're my friend. I want to see you do as well as possible. At the same time, I will ask the questions as hard as I can and reasonably try and treat you the same as everyone else. And I think I have. And I think people, from what I can tell from the comments I've been seeing, they've found some very interesting questions for you and in your race. And I hope people will continue to follow what's going on. Look forward to seeing your announcement next week. I, of course, will be following up on that. Is there any final thought or any final thing you would like to add at this moment?
Yes. Here's the reality of New York State. The window is closing for us to save the state. How do I know that? You can see people leaving.
Oh, yeah.
There's only two possible outcomes for this November. Only two. Kathy Hochul or an outsider. That's it. So if Mark Cuban moves up from Florida and throws $10 billion at the election, he could win, right? Some outsider can win. Or Hochul. That's it. She's going to be the nominee, Democrats. Republican cannot win in this state. So as a statewide, I'm sorry. Again, Republicans win often locally. The state's actually more red than blue locally. So I'm talking statewide. So it's not going to be Republican. It will either be Hochul or an outsider. I hope that outsider is me. If you think that outsider could be me, then support me, LarrySharpe.com. Those are your two options, Hochul or an outsider. Or call up Mark Cuban or whomever and have him and have him drop $10 billion on a race, whatever.
Before you go, best compliment I have had when I've done an interview with a guest. I just saw it, just came in right now. Great guest, and I'm quoting here, quote, great guest, stayed longer than I should have. I wish him luck and success. If we've had anything that went right, that tells me we did it right.
I love it.
And I thank my audience for paying attention, for being involved, for leaving your comments that I was reading through. I know I didn't answer all the questions that you wanted. I know we didn't get to deal with everything. You can't. That's why an election takes a year. But we will get there. We will get those things. Folks, this is Larry Sharpe. He is running for governor of New York State in 2022. He is on the Libertarian Party line. He is a friend, and I advise you, look him over, consider him, make your decisions after that. I look forward to seeing this race with him in it. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.